Well, hey everybody, it's Tuesday morning early and I'm out here to do some fertilizing in my yard before I head out to the nursery. There's a lot getting done out there, but I cannot forget about fertilizing my plants at my own house. As you can see, I've got agapanthus coming up, really nice right here, and then also on the other side right over there. So we've got some agapanthus, and I believe we've got 3 or 4 different varieties planted in this area. Ever sapphire, ever white, some blue, and I'm not really 100% sure all the varieties, but there's just going to be like a mix. So in case y'all don't know, agapanthus is that flower that comes up on a stalk and it's got that really pretty round bloom with lots of different little petals. It's just really pretty. And then I planted 2 knockout roses behind the agapanthus on either side of my steps, there and there. They're the bubblegum pink, and yeah, they'll probably get pretty big, but I can keep them rather small, and I don't mind if they get big enough to kind of cover the entry into the steps, because I think that'll just be pretty. So then here I've got a line of boxwoods, which I have lost 2 of them. I guess they just didn't get enough water during the winter when I had my irrigation turned off. So that one's definitely dead. Then that one over here has a little bit of green in it, but I'll probably just take it up and maybe like cut off the dead parts and put it in a pot and see if I can rejuvenate it and plant 2 nicer looking ones there in that spot. But then in front of the boxwoods, I've got Blue Cascade distillium, which are putting on a lot of really nice new growth. And it's so good to see, because when I got these, they just didn't look all that great. And so now I'm getting to see some nice, healthy looking leaves. So the distillium, I think, will be a nice touch in front of the boxwoods. It's very similar. It's an evergreen, but it has like more of a fan out habit, and boxwoods have more of an upright habit. But my plan for the boxwoods is to have them in cones, like these cones here. I love a cone-shaped boxwood. So yesterday I got back from the nursery around 5:30, and it was still nice, and the sun was going down, and it was pretty windy, and it felt great out. So I got my fertilizer and I started fertilizing all along the back of the house. I have a Blue Point juniper right here that I got online a couple of years ago, and at the other house I had it sitting in a pot, and it just like was just sitting there and it wasn't growing, and I thought that it was probably gonna die because I just didn't have a whole lot of room back there, and I didn't know what a good spot was for it. So now I have it planted right here, where when we first moved in there was a tea olive, like a huge tea olive in this corner right here, and it was nice. I mean, it was nice, but I took it up, and then I thought, you know, I could put this Blue Point juniper here because it gets a good bit of sun every day. This is gonna eventually get maybe about 6 feet, 7 feet tall, maybe about, I don't know, 5 feet wide, something like that. You may want to check and Google it because I'm not 100% sure, but it'll be in a cone shape, and it'll add a touch of blue here. Okay, so I obviously am gonna let my boxwoods grow and get them looking more symmetrical. These two on the left here have lots of new growth, but when I'm coming back around to prune in the next, hopefully like week, I'm gonna give them a real good prune, because you can see there's still some brown where that freeze that we got just completely burnt the tender growth that was there. So I'm gonna give them a really good prune and they will leaf out really nicely this spring. In front of these, I've got 3 Pringles podocarpus, which are Japanese yew, but they're the dwarf variety of Japanese yew, and these actually can get like 5 feet, 4 to 5 feet tall and wide, but my plan is to just like keep them in a really nice either ball or maybe even a hedge. I'm not sure yet. I'm just gonna let them grow and see what happens. Ruru's out here with me in the garden this morning. So he and his sister Reese were born up at our church. Their mama was a calico, and there were 2 other little kittens that were born in their litter, and they were all feral. The mama was sweet, but the kittens were totally feral. And we got their 2 siblings, which were Ginger, a home out at someone's farm so that they could be farm cats. And then Reese and Rue stayed with us in our guest room for like 5 weeks, and we were gonna just get them somewhere else to go. And then they ended up trusting me, and I just basically was like, Ryan, I can't let them go now. So they've become our babies and we love them, and they help me out in the garden a lot. Okay, so then over here on the corner is where it starts my cottage garden, which, you guys, if you're new to the channel, listen, this is a young landscape, because when we moved into this house in September of 21, I pulled out a ton of holly hedge that lined the entire house. Basically, it was like 25 years old, and started putting in all my plants that I brought from the other house. Some of them I have bought since we've been here, but most of them have been with me for several years, and I brought them over from the other house, and have been trying to find places for them in this new landscape. So over here I have what I like to call my cottage garden, because it's very like ununiform, and I have lots of cottage plants. And so over there where the boxwoods are, it's like more of a formal look, but over here, like in the corner right behind this Eagleston holly, I have 4 Encore Azaleas, which are, the one over here is actually too close to, this one is too close to the other, but for now I'm just gonna leave them right there. So that is, I believe, an autumn empress possibly, and this one might be an autumn royalty, but that and that are an autumn carnation. So they're all encores, and they'll get probably 4 feet tall and wide, depending on how I let them grow. Maybe not quite that big, I'm not sure, but right now they're still very young. I've had them for maybe a year, and they've been in pots for a lot of the time. So the Eagleston holly tree is an awesome evergreen tree, and I'm gonna form it into a like cone shape as it gets full, and eventually it's just gonna look like a giant cone shaped topiary, and I think it's gonna set this corner off. And you'll remember I planted some creeping phlox last summer, and it is putting on some blooms. This creeping phlox is, let's see, it's Drummond pink, or either it is just another pink variety, because I think there's a couple of pink varieties of creeping phlox. If you watch Linda Vodder, she had a lot of creeping phlox in her front yard before she moved, and it was, let's see, blue. It was actually a lavender color, but it was, I forget the name of it, but it had the word blue in it, I believe. So I kind of have like the edge of the bed lined with creeping phlox. As you see, it's like right there, and kind of does that all the way around. It's really not taken off yet, but I am seeing some nice growth coming on. That's all new right there. And then there's some blooms. And I do have some weeds, of course, but I just don't have the time right this second to get out and worry about those. This is my Carolina Sapphire, I believe it is, 4-ball topiary that I got in Montgomery, Alabama, at a place called Southern Home and Garden, and I had it at my old house. It was over in the little area where my bench was and my oak leaf hydrangeas. This is my twist of lime Abelia, and it is doing so great in this spot. It was literally like about to die. I had it over in the south facing bed, which is just right over there near that wall that you see, that brick wall. So that's the south facing. This is the west facing, and it gets a pretty good bit of sun, but it's not getting that full afternoon heavy sun, and it's happier. And see how pretty this is. These variegated leaves are so pretty. Abelia is just one of the best plants. So today I was thinking about cutting all that grass way back and fertilizing it. There is another azalea back here. It is a autumn twist. And a boxwood that's just not doing real good, and an Oakland holly back there in the corner. So let's see, I've got some perennials that are starting to come out. I don't know exactly what varieties I have in here. I know there are some black-eyed Susans and some purple coneflower, I believe. This is a, you can't even see this, but I'm hoping that it's got some coming out. This is a blue kazoo spirea. I may end up having to move it. I mean, all you can see, okay. I may end up having to move it because I just don't know how happy it is right here. It's just not looking great. But spirea does lose its leaves in the wintertime, so I'm just going to give it another chance here this spring. It gets pink blooms and the new growth comes out like blue. It's so pretty. And as you can see, my Duranta, that is said to be an annual here, is coming back, which is great. This plant is an awesome, awesome chartreuse for the garden. And it just ends up like being about a 2 to 3 foot tall and wide mound of this beautiful chartreuse foliage. It's awesome. All right, so then I have a Miss Lemon Abelia, some regular limelight hydrangeas, 4 of them, lining the back wall. Excuse me, 3 of them. And then here I've got a pink pinnacle vitex tree. So this is like a butterfly tree bush that stays a lot smaller than the regular vitexes. It only gets like 5-6 feet tall and wide. So it's really good for like a smaller size garden. And as you can see, it doesn't have any leaves on it right now, but I need to come in and just give it like a good prune, because it will put on a lot of new growth and new stalks, and it blooms on new wood. So you want to give it like a really good prune every season. Some more Miss Lemons all over the place. Another Duranta coming out. What we had for our temperatures whenever it was freezing outside, it got down to like 4 degrees one day, like during the day, which that never happens here in zone 8B, because I mean, typically what I remember is we don't normally get any lower than like 20, mid to high 20s. I think in the wintertime, like we never get down to like 10 or 4 degrees. It was crazy. We have really hot summers and humid summers and mild winters, and we have a really long growing season here. So a lot of our stuff gets bigger here in the southeast. So sometimes when tags say something gets a certain size, I mean, I kind of know that it's going to get bigger simply because of our long growing season. So here's some more creeping phlox, another Duranta. So I find that Duranta, and this is gold mound Duranta, it comes out usually pretty good every spring. I'll lose one occasionally, but okay. So here is like my specimen for this area. It's a divinely blue deodar cedar that I bought online a couple of years ago, and it's grown pretty good, but it's just a slow grower. But as you can see, there's some new needles here. The new needles are like really, really pretty blue. And eventually this ought to get like 6 to 7 feet tall, and you shouldn't be able to see that stem after a while because it's a weeping. Hopefully it will look really pretty and get a lot bigger. So I've got the Abelia just kind of placed throughout this bed, which gives it a really nice pop. It's still looking pretty wintry, but with our temperatures being in the 70s now, things are starting to leaf back out and get a lot of really nice new growth. So this is a bubblegum pink knockout rose. It's got some really nice new growth on it too. Then we've got some more perennials. Coming back out. Okay. It's a really nice day here. So I'm going to continue my fertilizing, and then I will head up to the nursery. We have gotten the pole barn partially up. We have got the electric wired in my little storefront house. We're doing a lot over there. It's looking really nice, and we're very, very excited. So anyway, thanks for walking around the garden with me a little bit today. This is my little cottage garden area. Hope you enjoyed it. I hope y'all have a great rest of your week, and I will see y'all in the next one.